there wasn't enough copper. Like, we were already concerned about where's the next generation of copper coming from, because there's been a total lack of investment in the industry. We need more projects, right? So that's why we're so excited, because we know we can have the potential of a project of merit, and there aren't very many.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for June 16th through June 23rd, 2025, while supplies last. First this week, we feature 1-ounce silver maples at just $3.09 over spot. And right now, for the lowest price we've seen in years, 90% junk silver is just $1 over spot. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're delighted to have a first-time guest today. Ian Harris is the CEO of Copper Giant. We've never introduced Copper Giant before to our audience. We're very glad to have them here. Thanks to Rick Rule's Rule Symposium. We're going to hear more about that. Ian, thank you for joining us this first time on Liberty and Finance.
Well, it's very exciting to be here and very excited for what's coming up in July. A lot going on, and so thanks for having us.
Yeah, I want to remind all of our viewers and subscribers that if they look in the description of this video, they'll find a link so that they can register to attend the Rule 2025 Symposium on Natural Resource Investing in Boca Raton, Florida, either live or through a virtual connection from the comfort of their home, and access all the live streams and the recordings there. And we want to zoom right into that conference. That's how we met, because we like to invite guests that Rick has hand-selected as companies that are going to be exhibitors at the 2025 Rule Symposium on Natural Resource Investing, and one of those is Copper Giant. And you have been the CEO of Copper Giant, and Rick and you have some very exciting news that's going to be coming out. We couldn't broadcast this until now, which is going to be Tuesday night, and that's June 19th, because you've got some news that can't be announced until the market opens, and we're glad to have you here to tell our viewers all about what the big story is, what the excitement is about, and why they should be aware of Copper Giant as a potential asset that they should consider for their portfolios. So I turn the floor over to you, and I'll follow up with additional questions as we go along.
Okay, I'm going to try and be as succinct as possible, because you opened up two little Pandora's boxes that are very exciting. And the first is, there's not a lot of good copper stories out there, despite seeing such, being on the front cover of The Economist, the copper's the new oil. There's some expectations, but we've gone through a lot of noise in market recently, but there's still that expectation that, we need a lot of copper, and it's not just energy transition, it's AI data centers, or that India is developing and we need it for electrification. It's so much pent up demand at a time where we were already concerned about supply. And so the term Copper Giant really comes from the concept that there are true projects of merit. There's just, the list is very short. There are estimates that in the next 20 years, we need to build the equivalent of the 20 largest copper mines in the world, right? And so I keep telling everybody, because I'm a mining engineer, that our biggest issue, with a lot of other industries, it's a production problem. It's getting that production to market in time. But in copper, we have a deposit problem. There are not enough deposits. So in conversations with majors, it always comes up a project of merit. They're looking for 2 billion tons at a 0.5% copper equivalent, which is about 20 million tons of copper equivalent. And that's a giant, right? Those are big projects, right? So there's excitement behind that. And that we've demonstrated that we're showing a pathway to be able to hit those numbers, and that Mocoa, our project, has that potential. We put out recently an exploration target demonstrating that, which is leading up to a little bit of the news. The other part of this story is there's been very few large-scale copper mines built in the last 10 years. And this is where Rick and I have crossed paths, right? There's really very few. There one or two, depending on which date you want to put in Peru, but the rest it was Ecuador with Mirador, Panama, Cobre Panama, and then you also have Congo or the DRC, right? And so that's it, right? And we're talking about big copper mines. And my experience in the past was at Corriente, which had the Mirador project. We took it. It sold for $690 million. I think made Rick and a lot of his followers a significant amount of money in that process through Corriente. And that it finally went on to be the first industrial scale mine in the history of Ecuador. And so that was the attraction to Mocoa in Colombia for myself, right? Same Jurassic belt, and I knew the potential and our chance here to lock up a district, right? Because nobody was really looking yet at Colombia, but geology doesn't respect country boundaries, right? So this big Jurassic belt, we've locked up amount of land that would be equivalent if it was in Ecuador that would have covered Fruta del Norte, Mirador Norte, Pananza, San Carlos, and Warintza, right? So it's a significant amount of ground. We cover the entire Jurassic, and we have this gemstone, which is called Mocoa, which already has a 600 million ton resource. But the problem in market has been people thought that was it. Normally people do a resource after everything's been drilled out. But in this case, it was an inherited resource because it went from B2 Gold into another company, and that resource was done, but it was open in all directions. So the exciting news that we just put out is that we've had a really rough little rain season here, and now we've got both drills turning. They're both turning, but the big one is the whole MD48 is a significant step out based on this exploration target work that we've done, going after basically potentially a new center, or showing a big extension of the existing deposit to really show and demonstrate this project could potentially getting a lot bigger, plus an update on where we're at. We're almost done with MD47. So basically we're back in business. We've been kind of quiet recently as we dealing with a lot of mud, but things now are the drills are all turning. So a lot went over in just a lot of different tidbits right there just from the beginning, but obviously we're seeing some significant inertia building and looking forward to, over the next few months, some significant news coming out of the company.
Rick has talked to our audience for some time, educating us on why he has such a strong preference, since mines are a depleting resource, for size and scale, why he wants to make sure that he has the questions being answered. He always asks, what's the unanswered question that needs to be answered? And one of those is generally, what is the scale of this potential resource that we're looking at? It sounds like you're well on the way to expanding that resource that you already have to the kind of scale that got Rick's attention in the first place and holds it and that of his followers and his investors going forward. Do you have any further thoughts for us on why scope and scale are so important when dealing with a potential copper resource at this time in the market?
Yeah, Rick always talks about what is the compelling question and what are you doing to answer that compelling question? If you're not doing that, then you're wasting our money, right? So we have a couple compelling questions. The big one for Mocoa is, I told you what a project of merit, what is the planet looking for, right? And then I'll go into why, right? And so we have a resource, we've demonstrated our target, you add those things to get two things together, you're seeing that we're already defining how we're going to get over there, and can we do it? So really what we're trying to answer is demonstrating to market that we can get over those numbers, that there's a pathway to get over those numbers, and we're doing it, right? So the obviously we'd be looking at a future update to the resource to be able to demonstrate that. And so that's what we're doing. And really MD48 is a big part of that, because if we hit on that, then that pathway becomes a whole lot easier, right? It's a pretty significant step out that you could see, okay, this project is increasing not in small percentages, but leaps and bounds. But the reason why size and scale is so important, I mean, this project, we've already done it. We put out multiple holes over 1 kilometer deep that showed mineralization from top to bottom. We're showing that they're highly disseminated mineralization, right? So it's a part of what makes big copper projects, right? And the reason scale is so important is because I just said we need to build the equivalent of the 20 largest copper mines on the planet. And we need to do that to meet expected demand. So to do that, we really want to build 20 of the biggest copper projects in the world. We don't want to build 200 of them because we can't, there's not companies to manage it, right? And so when companies are looking for things that can actually hit their balance sheet, things that can actually move it and deserves the management time of their company to be able to build them, right? Because it's too much trying to do 20 builds at the same time, right? They want big that can actually move the needle and can help fill this big expected gap. And that's why, but also scale is important because the majority of larger copper projects are copper porphyries, which is a more disseminated style of copper. So therefore, scale is really important to have the economics, right? I'm a mining engineer. I talk a lot about the perfect project is one that starts off at 30,000 tons, but sky's your limit. You can go up to at least 150,000 tons per day because that would put it in the top 20 category. 30,000 tons per day, you're talking about a mineable resource of at least 200 million tons. We've already checked that box. But when you talk about 150,000 over 20 years, you're talking 1.5. But you also want to see that blue sky. How can this continue to grow that makes it worth my time to invest billions of dollars that it will cost to invest into these types of projects? Right. So that is why scale and grade are so important. And I'll add a third one, which has been a very tricky one for even some of the bigger discoveries, and that's near surface. Right. I mentioned in the beginning, we put out multiple holes, which are showing mineralization all the way from surface. Right. Some of the bigger, more exciting projects out there right now are quite deep. Right. And deep means doing it underground or a lot of capital to moving forward. The projects that are they're not going to happen in the next 10 years, right? So to bring something into production quickly, you need near surface, and that's another thing that Mocoa brings to the table.
Another thing that Rick has talked to us about is the changing expectations in the world economically regarding the copper market in general. The copper demand drivers have been shifting. About 10 to 5 years ago, a lot of people were talking about electrification, and in the sense of electric vehicles was a key part of that, part of the green revolution, et cetera. And yet it seems that there's been concern that there's been a bit of a shine come off of that approach that maybe not have as much wind in its sails now as it did a few years ago. We'll wait and see. But in addition to that, as you mentioned, AI data centers, or Rick continues to talk about from an ethical standpoint, then the proportion of the world population that still doesn't have access to electricity or affordable electricity being a compelling driver for additional electrification, basic electrification going forward. Can you talk to us of your view of the forward-looking progress right now? What's going on in the supply and demand? You mentioned the need for 20 new mines to come in line. Why? What's driving that? And what do you see as being the compelling factors that are going to be underpinning the demand for copper going forward?
Yeah. So I do talk that copper really, and it was called the new oil. It was about the energy transition. It's not just electric vehicles is a big part, but it's also sustainable electricity. They're more decentralized, so it means much more infrastructure, but then also, it's the copper and the electric motors of our electric vehicle, plus how do you charge them, et cetera, et cetera. But I have a lot like Rick, right? I have a feeling that sounds good, but it's one of those, how much is it going to cost us? Let's just slow that down a little bit. It's something that people can put their brakes on that sounds great politically, but it might take a little bit longer. Despite seeing, a lot more electric vehicles on the road today, right? Or you're seeing Spain losing its entire power grid. But I like, there's a fundamental behind. Get rid of that entire story, right? And just the amount of the planet that still doesn't have access to electricity, right? If you look at the chart, right? You look at, about a quarter of the world's population is India or near India. And today you would say United States is using, China is using about, I got the numbers right here, 7.1 kilograms of copper per person. Okay. United States or Germany is 13.7, and India is less than 1. Right. So just moving that whole population and towards, a middle class or more modernization or having electricity, we need more copper. The world's new economies require more copper. They require more electricity. And there's the third part that I really like. The number isn't that big, but it is an undeniable hit your pedal to the metal. We need to go as fast as they can is AI and data centers, right? Because for many companies and countries, it's a battle you can't lose. So if you can find a way to make it faster, you're going to go faster, right? And that means copper. Like another one that a very high tech level country, right? Taiwan is at 18.7. Right. They're also one of the biggest chip makers in the world. Right. So they require a lot of energy and therefore they require a lot of copper. And I think those are the drivers. And even if you eliminated those pieces, there wasn't enough copper. Like we were already concerned about where's the next generation of copper coming from, because there's been a total lack of investment in the industry to make those discoveries. And the discoveries that have been made are deeper. Right. So, And I think there's a third component. We've really taken copper, the majority of new copper, like, oh man, this building new mines is really hard. Let's just see what we can get more out of the ones we already got, right? So there was a huge emphasis on brownfields expansion, but there's a real limit to the number of brownfield expansions that are available. And number two, it's the cost per new pound has now significantly passed the anticipation of a cost of a new greenfields project. So we need new project. When I say greenfields, it means a new project, not greenfields exploration, but greenfields projects. We need more projects, right? So that's why we're so excited, because we know we can have the potential of a project of merit, and there aren't very many. Right. So we know we're going to hit the radars. We know we're already on the radars of some. They've been tapping at our door already that this is a project that's going to get a lot of attention in our market. And I'm sorry I'm going long-winded and not letting you get questions in. And that's the last piece.
That's what I wanted to go next is, and we've talked with other companies that are transitioning from one stage of exploration development and getting ready for production and also redefining a scale. How the market reacts to that, how the market rewards a company with a different multiple typically once those burning questions get answered and potential investors start to realize the scope and scale and the grade and the supply demand curve imbalance and that sort of thing. Can you talk to us about the copper resource development market and where Copper Giant is at in its maturation curve, why potential investors should care about that?
So I'm going to answer this in a couple of different ways. The first is we are in a momentum market. We have to recognize we're in a momentum market, right? And we track this very closely. I like understanding the underlying valuation for my company and where it should be evaluated based on where things sit. And right now we're seeing, for a decent project that's not moving forward, right, there's a valuation between 0.1 and 0.2 cents per pound in the ground, where there's a second set of copper projects that are moving forward, still in that resource stage, like us, I'm comparing apples to apples, that is minimum is around 1 cent per pound in the ground, right? So we are now moving forward. We are now demonstrating. We're now doing all the things to show market that this project is moving forward and it's a project of merit. Okay. We, with a high level of confidence, know that when that all gets figured out, we should transition and do the graduation from a non-moving forward project to a moving forward project. And so there's a 5x at a minimum, sitting just from market understanding this project is moving forward. Now, as you get further down the line, it goes to 6, 7, 8 cents per pound in the ground as you get a project that goes into more of a project development stage. And really probably isn't valued truly for its pounds per the ground, but what is its NPV, right? It continues to grow and it's managing it, that Lassonde curve, right? I'm a mining engineer. I love it. Post-discovery, it's in that little lull, and now take it from here and move it up the next curve of value, which is moving it towards a production decision. And you can see it because there's not that many projects out there, we can put them and we know what those values are. And so that's the other thing that we're very excited about. We know when Copper Giant begins to move and graduate, that there's a compelling reason to do it. The fundamentals are there. We've got all the pieces together. It's more about just getting that and telling that story. And that's why we're getting excited about July, because all the pieces are coming together to really get this story out and start that graduation to a new valuation.
That's one thing that I was cracking up about, is that when Rick says the thing that really gets him excited, he differentiates himself from the average investor. He says the average investor waits until they see confirmation from the public by crowds rushing into something, and they see market momentum, and then they go, oh, that thing's going up, I'm going to go chase something that's going up. He says, no. That's not what should get you excited. What should get you excited is knowing that you're in the right place before the crowd discovers it, and before this crowd sees what you already see. And that's where our audience and myself have come to rely on Rick's deep study. I think he works harder at this than anybody I know, in terms of analyzing the underlying, not just the financials and the balance sheet of a company and the management team and their track record and the resource itself and the jurisdiction. And he puts it all together and says, I want to be in this place before the average investor finds out about it. Because once the market starts rewarding a company like Copper Giant with those kind of multiples, because you have passed those gates in the maturation curve, then it becomes obvious to the rest of the world of investors, and that's where Rick already wanted to be before that. So we're grateful to meet you now, and for our potential investors and viewers and subscribers who want to learn more about Copper Giant, we'll certainly put basic company contact information in the description of this video. But will you be at the Rural Symposium in Boca Raton in July, or company representatives, if people want to find out more directly from you at that place?
I will be personally going to Boca Raton and look forward to answering all those questions. And Rick loves to say, the more hate, the more I like it. Right? I do believe that copper is going to be one of the ones that's the most obvious, and everyone's going to say, yeah, of course. But it's hated right now, right? It might be hated now because precious metals are moving forward, et cetera, et cetera. But also the funny part is copper is one of the more well-known commodities out there. It's not zebibitidium, right? It's not, I made that up. That's not a real metal, right? But some small little niche market, right? It's well known. It's sitting on the cover of an Economist. It's the new oil. Oh, we need more copper. Everybody's telling us we need more copper, et cetera, et cetera. But the valuations and the equities right now are a real opportunity. And when that switch goes, everybody's like, of course, right? The other one that Copper Giant has is that, people had been negative on Colombia, where our project is, but I think everybody is opening up their eyes to say, oh, there's elections coming up in 12 months. The whole dynamic's going to change. Wait a second. Why is Freeport there? Hey, wait, why is Rio Tinto there? Why are all these big companies showing up there? And 50% of the biggest copper mines in the world go from the bottom of Chile all the way up to Panama. That's where this Andes belt produces these big, giant copper projects, right? So it's like there's no mystery, right? And, if you look at it today, despite the position, I think that makes it such a logical choice based on our current valuation and the overall potential. It would be a very compelling case that I think that Rick would love, right? That it's right now it's out. It's the crowd hasn't shown up, but it will make sense when the crowd does show up, and it won't take that long, hopefully, to get there.
And also, we want to put a link to your press release, this latest press release about progress in your drilling program that's going to get those questions answered that need to be answered to move along that curve of maturity and get more attention from more investors. In the description of this video, we'll put a link to that press release. And for people who want to reach out directly to Copper Giant to get more of their personal questions answered, how should they go about that?
I say the easiest way, if somebody really wants to, and especially somebody who's watching this, send me a WhatsApp message. By the way, I live in Medellin, Colombia, and we live on WhatsApp, right? That's our main communication tool. It just got adopted early, but send me a message. And it's +1 303-956-2944. Send me a message if you have a question. I like to talk. I like to tell people about the project. I like to be engaged. I might get 1,000 emails today, and you might get missed if you send an email. But normally, if you send me a WhatsApp, I'll find the time just to at least get a chat back, or look forward to seeing people personally at the symposium. Right? It's I love to tell the story of Copper Giant.
We'll be grateful to meet you in person there, and folks, look forward to meeting all of you who can make it in person to Boca Raton to meet us there. Look in the link for how to register for the conference in the description of this video. If you can't travel to Boca, don't let that stop you. You can get 100% virtual access from the comfort of your home to all the speakers and presenters at the conference, also by following the same link in the description of this video. So very grateful. Ian Harris, CEO of Copper Giant, thank you on behalf of all of our viewers and subscribers. And I get this cherry job of getting to sit in the place of all of our viewers and subscribers and learn as they do, as we all learn together. Thank you for joining us on Liberty and Finance.
Thanks a ton for having me.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for June 16th through June 23rd, 2025, while supplies last. First this week, we feature 1-ounce silver maples at just $3.09 over spot. And right now, for the lowest price we've seen in years, 90% junk silver is just $1 over spot. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.